So tonight we're going to be covering Tuscarora Council strips. We're a small council in North Carolina. We just cover Johnston, Wayne, Sampson, and Duplin counties. If you're familiar with the area, you know that Johnston County is a little more developed. Wayne County basically has the Air Force Base in Goldsboro, where the council headquarters is. Sampson and Duplin counties are basically farmland. So very small, council, especially compared to a lot of the larger councils that are being formed because of mergers today. And because we're small, there's a lot of tough council strip issues, some of which were intended to be tough, and some of which just, for whatever reason, they just are. So let's go ahead and get into it. So first, I just want to show you have the red and white half strip and then the red and white strip. They were kind of the pre-CSP's shoulder insignia from Tuscarora Council. There is no known khaki and red half strip or a tan and red half strip or anything else. It's just those two. It is interesting. It's the only one from North Carolina, but the Tuscarora Council red and white strip says Tuscarora Council, no Carolina, abbreviated from North. But all the other ones just say NC. Now, the first council strip is that one down at the bottom, the S1 with a cross. Now, there's two varieties. On the two varieties, the scroll, so this here, the blue part behind For God and Country, one of them is vertical, so the embroidery goes up and down, and one is horizontal, goes left to right. That was something that I was aware of early collecting, that they had a variety in it, but I never had enough together to really be able to tell what the differences were when I was first starting to collect these. So there's the other variety. So vertical's the first one, and then horizontal scroll's the second one. Now the next strip, they switched it from a cross to a flame. Locally, there's always kind of been the rumor of like, oh, well, National didn't like us having a cross on it or something along those lines, but I don't know that anyone actually has any substantial evidence to why we made the change. But the one with the cross is moderately difficult, where the one with the flame is very common. They were just issued for a good amount of years. Now, if you look at the border, you can see that this one, it has that cut edge light blue and then the dark blue, where the next issue, they changed it to be just all dark blue. Now, most of the middle patch on this screen are going to be cloth backs, and then the next one down are going to be plastic backs. So, yeah, just kind of interesting. It was our first plastic back council strip. Now, I'm going to start going through some of these a little quicker. If you have any questions about anything, just let me know at the end, but there's a lot to get through, and I know that our time is limited. The one at the top of this page is really just a thread break. It's just a pretty significant thread break. The quality of our first two varieties, the S1, the S2, and the S3, the quality was very poor. It is very common to find various thread breaks or something wrong with the patches. I have seen a couple actually like this one, though, where it's just that white thread going across it. For whatever reason, it broke and they just didn't bother to fix it. I don't know who manufactured them, but they did a pretty poor job of it. And then the next one down, you have the yellow fleur-de-lis. Then we get back to the flame. The one at the bottom was the one I got into in scouting. So it came around, I want to say like late 90s, maybe early 2000s. Now, then you have this patch. Now, this patch came out really as part of the 95th anniversary stuff. However, they ordered so many of them that they then turned around and started putting them on the uniforms that they were selling out of council office. Now, to me, that kind of changes it from being like a special patch for the 95th anniversary to now suddenly it's a standard patch, because that's what is being put on all the uniforms like a standard patch would be. So that's why I have it here. The next one down is going to be the current standard patch, and while I've seen it, I have not been to the council office to see if they've started actually selling them. And it kind of matches the design of stuff for this year's set, which is the 100th anniversary. I do have blank spots. If I have a blank spot, it means I'm missing something. I'll kind of tell you what's there basically, but we had several early wood badge patches. There's a brown one with, and they're just in a weird shape with a log in the middle. A brown one, two green ones. The green ones are varieties. There's a dark log in the middle. It's like a dark chocolate brown, and the other one's just a very light brown. And they are harder. The reason they're harder is that there's a lot more demand because they have 4 council names on them. They were joint courses held by 4 councils, including Tuscarora Council, and that's why they're difficult pieces, because people who collect any of the 4 councils wants to have them. Then you get into some of the other Tuscarora Council issues. So here are 2 more wood badge. These have become much easier. A lot of Tuscarora Council strips are much easier now than when I started collecting them. There's a 77 and a 79. I mean, when I first started collecting these, you just never saw them. And now they're, while not readily available, they're at least out there now. And then you've got the 89 National Jamboree patch. That was our first Jamboree strip. And then you've got the 93 National Jamboree, and then the 95. Now this is part of a set that was made representing multiple councils, and it included Tuscarora Council, several other, Old North State, several other councils, because it was really made by the region. And that's something we're going to see with several World Jamboree patches, that these patches were made by Southern Region, because the Southern Region is who sends the contingent to the World Jamboree, not the individual councils like they would to a National Jamboree. Some people choose to say, oh, well, those are not issued by the council, I don't collect them. Personally, I'm kind of a completist. If it has a council name on it, it looks like a CSP, then I probably want to have it for my collection. There's the All Ghost Black council strip. There's 2 varieties. It comes with a white back, and that's that one. And the other one where it's a black back. You can collect them both if you want, or just have one. It's up to you. A lot of these wood badge pieces back in the day were $40, $50 pieces, and now they're more in the $20 to $25 range, maybe less. I mean, they've just come down a lot. I don't think it's this set. So these have the dangling beads. There's another set that has dangling beads. I'll tell you about that in a second. So 1997, and then these 2 for the 75th anniversary. Now, it's going to be really hard to see this. This one here has a fleur-de-lis, okay? This one here does not. I think that this one here was an error, and then they reordered it, and when they reordered it, it came with the fleur-de-lis. I don't think either one is particularly harder than the other. Sometimes you happen to get a couple of one and don't have any of the other, and other way around in collections. So I think it just depends on who bought it at what time as to which one they got. I don't think people specifically looked for one or the other at the time. But the one with the fleur-de-lis was a reorder. Now these 2 are ridiculously hard. They're just ridiculous. And they're recruiter patches. It's the solid blue, baby blue ghost, and the gray ghost. I mean, they came out early 2000s. They were recruiter patches. I remember getting one for Cub Scouts. I don't remember how many people I recruited. I mean, it couldn't have been, yeah, I'm guessing like 4 or 5 people. But I can tell you a number of years ago, I sold some of my Tuscarora Council strips because I was offered a lot of money for them, and I figured, well, I can probably get them back much cheaper down the road. Well, I did not realize that it would take me 10 years living locally in the area, actively looking for the patches, to find this pair of patches again. And it took me 10 years. I don't know why they're so hard. I don't know how many were made. I know they were a recruiter patch, but they're just ridiculously hard to find if you're looking for Tuscarora Council strips. And to be honest, I looked into these. I had no idea the collection I was going to see happened to have these in it when I was there. Now, 2001 National Jamboree, and then you have these. So this is called the No Face and the Face. These, the No Face, are much more common. They were an error. It's all weird looking. This one you can see they actually embroidered an eye, the nose, the mouth, everything on there. And it was basically, the no face came in, it was rejected, but the council kept it. But we got the face ones in, and they were issued. I think it was popcorn. Yeah, it was a popcorn patch. So people were issued based on if they earned it or not, the face patch. Some of the no face were issued, I think, before they realized the error. However, a lot of them ended up with a couple individuals who bought them from the council or ended up with them from the council later. And that's why it's much more common than the face issue. Now, this one is probably, I would say that the two recruiter patches earlier are what I consider the hardest issues from the council, followed by this piece. And it's funny because it's an FOS, and you usually think of FOS patches, oh, well, maybe you make a big donation, but then they're not worth anything. Well, that's not quite right on this one. So this was the first in the series, Trustworthy, 2004. They started, I remember they showed up, Scott Hagler showed up at the Pack 77 blue and gold. I think it was blue and gold. I remember it was a thing where the whole pack was there. But anyways, I think it was blue and gold. But anyways, he showed up with these, and they promoted that they were now, if you made an FOS donation, you were going to get this patch. Well, it was at the end of the year, and people who had already made their donation had made their donation. They weren't going to make another one. And because it was towards the end of the year, and the FOS donation is $125, not a lot of people made a donation. It was one of those things of basically it kind of fell flat, and I don't know how many of these were ordered, but they were distributed. No one really thought anything of it because they continued using the design the next year. But what people didn't notice was that these that were done for that very end of 2004, say 2004, and then the ones that was issued for all of 2005, say 2005. So most people, they may have all 12 Scout Laws in their set, but they think they're complete, but they have a 2005, they don't have the 2004. To give some idea of value, a 2004 is probably $125 to $140 patch. The 2000, that's the 2004. The 2005 is probably $20 or so. I mean, it's a pretty remarkable difference. But the 2004s are just much more scarce. And then we get into some of these other issues that are, all of these are basically more modern. 2005 National Jamboree, 2006 FOS, 2006 Philmont. It is harder. You don't see very many of them. Actually, I really don't remember that. I think I've had two of them. I don't know that I've ever had more than that. So it is a pretty hard patch. 2007 FOS is common. 2007 World Jamboree. This was part of a 3-council joint set. I think it was Tuscarora, Okinichi, and Old North State. They made a set of 3 patches because they all sent people with the southern region as a contingent to the 2007 World Jamboree over in England. And then you have 2008 FOS, 2009 FOS, 2010 FOS, all not that hard. Then they made these for the 100th anniversary. The white 2010 is not hard. It was part of a $30 set. You could buy as many as you wanted. The next one was the silver Mylar set, and it was, I think it was more than 100. I don't, it's been a couple years now, and I can't remember if it was 100, if it was 125. We bought one of those when it came out. The gold one was the one that made everyone mad because it was a $500 donation set, and they only made 25. And everyone in the council wasn't, well, anyone who was a collector was not happy, even on the state level, because there was an OA flap and a chevron that went with it and a certificate of authenticity. To me, value-wise, I guess it would be worth more than the recruiter patches. But to me, I would value the recruiter patches more from a collecting standpoint because they were not intended to be difficult. The recruiter patches just came out, they were issued, no one really thought anything about it, and it turned out that they ended up being really hard. This was more of what I would consider almost a contrived rarity. So, if you have it, that's great. If you don't have it, I don't think that hurts your collection too bad. Then you get into the 2010 set. We had 4 council strips representing the 4 different counties, so something from each county. And then you had the Scoutmaster one as the 5th piece that was given out by the Scoutmaster. People who were leadership at the Jamboree got 1 extra, including me. I was a patrol leader there. And then he also gave 1 to every boy who went. And then if he saw you doing acts of kindness or something like that, he would give you another 1. So I think he gave me 3. And of course, me being a trader, I did try to trade for some that other people had gotten. But it was a much more limited patch compared to the rest of the set. Now, the first year in 2010, they made a popcorn patch. That's what I'm missing. Popcorn patches are really obnoxious in our council. You'll see I'm missing most of them. They've made them, and some years maybe they weren't that bad, and if that's how they had made them every year, I wouldn't be that upset. 2010, okay, it's the first year they're making it. They didn't make a lot. Okay. They started in 2010, the original intent was if a kid filled up a whole sheet, so a whole sheet of popcorn sales, they got 1 patch. Okay. So they didn't make a lot. Not a lot of people got them. Then you had 2011, the FOS, and then the 2011, they did a yellow, and then they did a blue. And so now they changed it, where you filled up 1 sheet by a certain deadline, you got 1 patch. You filled up 1 sheet by another deadline, you got the other patch. Seems a little much to me, but just wait. Now this 2011 wood batch set is the other one with the dangles, and I remember Rick Pridgeon was at the Merit Badge College that year, and he was selling these. They were to raise money for Wood Badge. They had some left over, and they were selling them. That's fine. Well, Rick, I guess to be able to differentiate the ones he was selling from ones who the people were on the course, he had snipped the beads off of the patch where that goes below the edge of the patch. So if you bought one, because you like supporting Wood Badge and you were in Tuscarora Council and you wanted a council strip, if you bought one at the Merit Badge College, well, you got essentially a damaged patch. Now, I don't have a snipped one in my collection. I guess I could take one of mine and snip it, and then it would become that variety if we wanted to collect it that way. But I've not done that. So, but it's something to be aware of. You see one that has been snipped, that's why. Now, 2012 Cheerful, 2012 Popcorn, they were issued the same as 2011. And then you have the first NYLT, so that was 2012, and that was Doug Lamb's course. And so he was the first course director for NYLT in our area. We didn't get many of those patches. I was on staff. I think we got maybe 3. That 3 sounds right. I'm not sure, but that sounds right. And there weren't really any leftovers. You might could have bought 1 extra, but I don't think everyone got to. I think they may have just had maybe a dozen left over after they were distributed or something like that. Now 2012 Eagle, I think these are some of the most beautiful council strips our council's ever made. They're gorgeous. The red was available to anybody. Anybody could buy it. The blue was available to any Eagle Scout, which I thought was cool. And then the gold was available only to 2012 Eagle Scouts. Well, I was a 2012 Eagle Scout, so I got to buy them. So I bought a pretty good number of them. I wish I had bought more at the time because, I thought buying, at that time, that was still before I was really into collecting as deep as I am now. And I thought buying 10 or 15 of a patch was buying a whole lot of a patch. And they did go pretty quick, but they're gorgeous. The Gold Mylar one is just absolutely gorgeous. But so anyways, 2013 FOS. And then what I'm missing here and there are the 2013 popcorn. And what happened is they had some extras in 2011 and 2012 of popcorn, so they started ordering less. They were still requiring them to fill up 2 different sheets to earn one badge or earn the other badge. And instead of just making 1 patch, they kept making 2 patches, but they ordered less of them. And so it started becoming harder to get them. And most people who get them are Cub Scouts or regular boys in the troop, and they may only get 1 set, or they may only get 1 of the 2, and so they're just very annoying to even try to possibly get. And I should also mention at the time that they were coming out. Now the market has softened a lot, but at the time there were a couple people in the council who were getting them, and then they were able to put them on eBay and sell them for $50 to $60 a patch. But they only had 1 or 2 because they can only get 1 or 2. And I just wasn't willing to pay that. Now the prices come down to probably a price I'd be willing to buy them at, but the problem is that they're almost never available now. So anyways, 2013 Wood Badge, that was Miss Crystal's course. So you've got the participant with a black border. I don't know why we started doing 3. I think Craig just wanted to make a little bit of extra money as a fundraiser for the course, and our course was very well fundraised. And then you had the staff. Now the staff is ghosted in between the axe and the log. It's kind of hard to see. And they usually did make less of the staff, and usually when Craig was selling them to people on the course, only the people on the course could buy them. It would be $5 for the participant, $5 for the second participant in this course's case, and then $10 for the staff. So it wasn't a cheap patch if you wanted to buy, 10 of them to trade or to give away or to do whatever. You didn't really do that. Most people bought 1 set or maybe 2. Maybe if they were feeling crazy, they might have bought 3 sets. 2013 National Jamboree would bring some controversy. So you had this beautiful bird set, cardinal with these 3. And then this is what we kind of knew about. And then at the last minute, the council came out with a silver Mylar set. Now it was on the pre-order, but it was still in the very short term before we go into Jamboree, we found about these. And they were only 50 made, and they were $100 a set, and they sold out almost instantly. Because it also came with a lodge flap, and anyone who collected our area knew that lodge flap was going to be worth more than $100 if they only made 50 of them. The lodge was not consulted about that lodge flap, and no one was consulted, neither the leaders going on the trip or the lodge or anybody, about the next set, and that's the Gold Mylar set. So there's a Gold Mylar set of council strips and flap. Now, and I'm not missing a piece there, that's just the end of the 2013 stuff. But, so these were 5 made, which you just kind of have to think about how you want to collect when a council makes something. Now, the intention behind them was good. We had a wonderful scout executive, really nice guy, Tim Harper. Very supportive. I mean, any scout executive who shows up at an OA weekend and hops into the serving line to serve breakfast and help and do, that's a good scout executive. But he made 5 of these sets as a thank you gift, and he had them framed, and he gave them to the leaders going on the contingent. He had not told anybody. So the 4 leaders on the contingent got 1, and the council maintained a set, and I don't know if they still have it. It may not have survived the flood. So there were 5 sets at one point, maybe 4 now, but they're just a Gold Mylar version. I put this in the same category as the 2010 Gold Mylar. If you have it, I think it's wonderful. It's an interesting piece. I would not be overly concerned about it as far as making or breaking a Tuscarora Council strip collection, because I think you can have a wonderful collection without having this piece. Now, 2013, they did kind of a commemorative set. It was the council's 90th anniversary. We had a wonderful event out at camp. We did a lot of stuff. We retired 4,240 flags during the Jamboree, which was pretty impressive. Had a great time. So they did these three and that one, which was that was the set from 2013. Then they did a 2014 FOS. Once again, I'm missing the 2014 popcorn patches. So those two there. And then they made very few of these. However, I happened to end up with some, which were the 2014 Kodiak and Philmont. When they first came out, they were basically impossible to get because they made like 100 of each, and every boy who went got two, and it wasn't a big contingent. Years later, I got a couple of each, but that was, at the time they were very, very difficult just because, I mean, what do you do when a kid from your council only gets one or two of something and they sewed one on their uniform and it's a trek they went on? You don't want to sit there and trade for the only one they have in their collection. I mean, it puts you in a hard position trying to fill your holes when stuff is that restricted. So then you've got the top one here. Now this one was 2014 NYLT Miss Pam's course. Wonderful, fun course. They made a couple more of the patches than they did the previous time, but they were still very restricted. I mean, you got 3 or 4 of them. It's actually a neon orange. It just scans this funky color for some reason, but it's a neon orange, construction orange kind of color where that yellow is. I think everywhere but the fleur-de-lis. The fleur-de-lis is actually yellow, but a lot of that rest of that's supposed to be orange. So anyways, if I remember right, yeah. 2015 FOS, no real big deal. 2015 popcorn patches. Once again, I'm missing them. Very difficult. They just are what they are, I guess. And then this was the wood batch course I was on. Now it was funny. I actually had 3 beads before I got my first 2 beads. And you go, wait a minute, how's that possible? And even the guys running the course were a little confused. But I had my certificate signed off by the council and national. I said, yep, I've got 3 beads. I just never got the first 2. Or I got my 3rd bead. And that's because you could earn your 3rd bead being on an NYLT course. And I had been on both of the previous NYLT courses when it was first coming out, and I had earned my 3rd bead there, but I had done it before getting these. So I was on this course, got my first 2 beads, the 2 participant patches, and then the staff patch. And actually, I'm sorry, I think that the previous 2 holes were for the 2014 popcorn patches, which I'm missing, and then these are the holes for the 2015 popcorn patches that I'm missing. So then the council decided they needed to make some money at the 100th anniversary of the OA, so they made a set of 12 council strips. They sold, instead of selling it like one big set or selling it as one little set, one big set, they sold it as 4 different sets. So you had this one, which was one of the cheap sets, it was $12. This one, which was a cheap set, was $12. It has the Native American head. It has a Nighthawk for the totem of the lodge, and then has kind of the standard design. And then they did the same sets but with Mylar border. Now these were $50 a piece. So if you wanted the entire set of 12, it was $124. And they made 100 sets of the gold Mylar. Now the other sets they'd only made like 200 of, but then they ran out before Conclave, and I think they ordered 100 of each, thinking we would sell them out at Conclave. I don't think we sold very many, if any, at Conclave. 2016 FOS, and then I'm missing, of course, the 2016 popcorn patches. I think, and I'll show my needs list in a minute, if I can find it quickly. I think I'm missing a 2016 wood badge in here. And I think 2016 may have been the year that they actually started making 3 popcorn patches. At one point, they started making 3 popcorn patches. So if you filled up a sheet, you got 1. If after that, that was a time period. And then during the second time period, you filled up a sheet, you got a second one. And they felt, well, what about the kids who did it both? Well, they should get something really special compared to the kids who just did one or the other. So then they made a 3rd popcorn patch where if you filled up a sheet during both periods of time, you then got a 3rd patch. Yeah, I'm not very excited about those popcorn patches. This is the NYLT. I do think there's a wood badge that I'm missing in here. There's the 2017 wood badge. No, so I'm not missing a wood badge because we were alternating years. So NYLT one year, wood badge the other, and switching them. We'll just have to check my needs list of why I'm missing so much stuff in 2015 and 16. But this one I was on staff with, and I earned my 3rd bead the 2nd time. So I've earned the 3rd bead the 2nd time. But I was on staff for that. That was Phil's course. His vigil name is Great White Buffalo, which is why there's a buffalo on the patch. So then 2017 NYLT Nord Jamboree, the 2017 or that thing. Not made by the council, made by a contingent who went to Nord and went to the National Jamboree or something and basically didn't consult anyone. It was not an expensive patch, so I have one in my collection, but I could easily see where you would make the argument it's not a council patch and you don't need it. Then you have the 95th anniversary set. Now these match, other than saying 95th, that other patch that came out at the same time, and I really considered it as part of the set, and they kind of considered it as part of the set, but it ended up being a standard patch because they had so many left. So you've got the red Mylar border, the silver Mylar border, and the gold Mylar border. Now one of these, I think the gold, so the gold was the FOS patch for the year. It was after they just finished the Scout Lull set, so they did that as the FOS patch. The silver was just a fundraiser. It was like $75. The council, I think, still has a handful left, maybe. They had to really dig to find one for me because I didn't buy it at the time. But it's like $75. And then you have the Philmont patch, which was pretty restricted. The guys who went to Philmont, I was told they only got 2. Somebody gave me 1, or maybe they got 3. I think it's 3 because somebody gave me 1, and then there were some kids and a couple other people, and they kind of all came in together at one fellowship, and I was able to trade for 1 or 2 of their extras, and that's how I got mine. And then I'm probably missing another popcorn patch. And then 2019, that's an FOS. 2019 NYLT. 2020 FOS, 2021 FOS, 2022 FOS. Now I know I'm missing a couple wood badge from the more recent years and a couple NYLTs from more recent years. I just haven't kept up with them as much. Now this is the thing that I do want to show. So 2022 FOS, that patch is the 3rd level of FOS. Okay, so you get that gold Mylar patch. The 1st level of FOS, which is the same as it always has been, like $125, is that patch there at the bottom. Okay, so you pay $125 for that. The 3rd level, you have to make, it's like a $325 donation for the year. I'm hoping that they're doing it again this year. I'm hoping it's not going to stick around very long. Otherwise, I'm going to not be collecting council strips much longer. But it's $325 donation. Now in the middle, and I don't know if y'all can see it if you get a hat, but you get a ball cap for like the $250 middle level tier donation, you get a hat. I was not thrilled about getting a hat for $250. Of course, arguably, I guess it's more cloth than the patch, but still, it's not very exciting. And then they just came out with this, which I do think is a really good design for the 100th anniversary. It's like a fundraiser patch. It was $40. And to be honest, if that's the most expensive thing they come out for our 100th anniversary, I'm going to consider myself very lucky. This is the hat. it's overall it's nice. I mean, it's got a NC flag on it, and on one side it kind of says 2022 FOS, and on the other side it just says be prepared. I'm not sure about that, but it okay. Okay, so these are some of the things that I do not have. That's the first wood badge, second wood badge. Some of these I needed and I got recently. These two on the lower left, they are actually the Little River Outlaw patches. The troop made those up, and they got in a bunch of trouble from the council for making council strips. I sure wish I could find who has the black garbage bag left of them, because I remember they had a black garbage bag, like a yard trash bag, full of these patches. They were selling them at a conclave as a fundraiser. And at the time, if only I could go back, I'd bought that one, which I then later let go, not keeping it like I should have. And I never even saw that one, but it was probably in that bag, buried under these. But they were just selling for $5 as a fundraiser for the troop. You can see the popcorn patches. It's absolutely ridiculous. There's the 2010, the 2013, the 2014. All of these were made for 1 year. All of those were made for 1 year. Now, there were some descriptions of why they came out. It was a little confusing to me, but something about like some of these were for people who helped set up the popcorn stuff with the council. Now, remember, we're not a big council. I don't know why those people needed a patch, but apparently they got one. And then the rest were for the participants for the council doing the popcorn. That's an NYLT patch. I think it's 2018. So I guess I'm missing that. A commissioner patch that came out that was made for commissioners. And then 3 more popcorn patches. And there are probably some more popcorn patches from recent years that I've never even seen that I'm missing. And then that's 2015, the World Jamboree. It was a contingent thing. And for whatever reason, even though it was not made by our council, I guess Japan's more expensive to go to, I guess. So maybe less people went. I don't really understand why, but for whatever reason, that is the hardest of all the patches that were made for our area by people going to a World Jamboree. That one is the hardest. I've never owned one, and I've never seen one in person. So I've got a picture, I guess. And then the 2017 sets. I was there. I was on staff. We couldn't buy mini sets. And if I have one, I have no idea where it is, which doesn't mean I don't have one, but I'd like to have one to stick in my binder if I can find it, or I might end up buying another one. So yeah, that's the presentation. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, so they were individually numbered. The silver Mylar set, they made 100 of them. The gold Mylar, they made 25. The gold Mylar set had a certificate of authenticity that came with it, and it was signed. Now, I don't remember the exact year, but it's been within the last couple years, a gold Mylar set showed up on eBay. It was not numbered, but it looked exactly like the gold Mylar set, but it was not numbered, and there was no certificate of authenticity. It was being sold by TSPA. I contacted TSPA directly, and I asked them, I said, hey, I'm just curious, what's going on with this? It doesn't have a number. They were all supposed to have been numbered. It doesn't have a certificate of authenticity. Is this something that came from a manufacturer? They were all ordered from Shelby. So I would have been really shocked that they had given a sample to somebody or something, but it could happen. And apparently some other people had got really upset over this patch before I contacted them, and all they would tell me was that it was given to them by a professional scout, and that they were now returning the patch to that scout. And so there is one out there that's not numbered, is this set of stuff. It was announced when we were out at a camp. So you've got an Indian head back patch with 4 patches. Now, the top one, I guess maybe vaguely kind of looks like a CSP. It's not meant to be. Please don't make it one. And then you have to earn those through the year, and they're going to be very, very hard to earn. And I've been told that they're going to burn all the leftovers, and I sure hope they don't. But I have no control over any of that. Um, so we'll see what happens, but it's going to be a very hard set because there's very stringent requirements for each of the 4 patches going into the Indian head. And then this patch here, that was sold for $40 at the council event. And then this here was not for sale yet, but is going to be for sale, and it's going to be the new standard patch for the uniform. And then these are the 2 FOS patches that satisfy the first and third level of FOS donation for the council. So you'll have to make, a $325 donation to get those. The Camp Tuscarora patch, which looks really big to me, is supposed to be the camp patch for this summer, and everyone who goes will get one. And I maybe saw something about staff getting one more, and whatever's not issued will be burned, is what they have said. They're apparently really big into burning patches this year. So, but anyway, so that's kind of what's going on with that stuff. If that's all they make, I know it's still a good amount of money and time to get everything, but I'll be honest, I feel like I came off cheap if that's all they make, because I just saw in my mind, with it being the 100th anniversary, that they were just going to make a whole bunch of really expensive stuff.